She is from KSB Law, and she practices in educational law throughout the state and serves many districts. She is here to talk to us a little bit about digital citizenship and how to keep us safe in the world of technology. So without further ado, Karen Haase.
Tease kids when I do student assemblies when they clap before I talk. What if I'm terrible? Won't you be sorry? Okay. First things first, you are here at 6 o'clock on a perfectly lovely evening, and you have kids that are supposed to be home emptying the dishwasher because that's something the youngers can certainly do, right? So at 7 o'clock, without fail, I will turn you loose to go home and make sure the trumpet got practiced and the dishwasher got emptied, and then you can yell at your high school kids in the car on the way home about all the scary stuff I'm going to tell you. But it's really important to me to be respectful of your time because I am just so appreciative to have the chance to talk to both students and parents tonight because I get so many phone calls about this stuff in my practice. Let me tell you one quick story about a one-to-one laptop initiative, and then I will jump right into the scary stuff. I am the proud parent of a high school graduate and a college graduate now. Yeah, I know. Eli, my youngest, is a graduate of Norris, and Norris went one-to-one for the first time last year. So I was sitting in bleachers just as uncomfortable as these are, just exactly where you are. And I wrote the check for the insurance so that Eli, if he lost the laptop, because I know my kid, so that if he lost the laptop, I wouldn't have to pay for it out of pocket, right? Swear to you, 2 weeks later, the kid comes home and says, Mom, I lost my Chromebook, I can't find it. I'm like, okay, we'll go to the technology department because we signed the contract, we have the insurance, they'll just give you a replacement. Yeah, I did that, and I forgot to turn in the check with the insurance, so we don't have insurance. So I'm the proud owner of 2 Norris High School Chromebooks, one of which is still in the bowels of the school. So it is a huge favor that the school is doing to you, like making you fill all this stuff out and take it in right now. Believe it or not, parents, this is making your life easier, not harder. Okay, so as is all I do in my law practice, all our entire law firm does is represent public school districts. And we started probably about 15 years ago now, getting phone calls about problems that kids were having because of stupid stuff they were doing online. And as schools have evolved and started offering technology that kiddos can take home, it's become even more of an issue in my practice when students and parents struggle to know what exactly are the rules and what exactly are the dangers of having access to this kind of technology. So this evening in the time we have together, I really want to talk about 3 areas of problems that in our office we get phone calls about on a regular basis. So first, I want to talk about cyberbullying. And I want to talk about it in a way that's probably different than you've heard other people talk about it, because I'm a lawyer, and so I'm going to talk about it from the legal perspective. Secondly, I want to talk about criminal liability. In particular, I want to talk about terroristic threats and sexting. Kids, if you want to scoot away from your parents for that portion of the presentation, I totally understand, right? But parents, I think it's vitally important that adults understand what's going on in kids' digital romance lives, and to talk about some of the dangers and criminal implications of the student behavior that we see. The last thing I want to talk about is internet safety and internet predation. And most of the time, high school students think that they are way too smart and way too clever to be taken advantage of by predators. But what we're seeing is a high occurrence of sextortion, which is where someone shares an inappropriate image and then gets blackmailed into doing stuff they don't want to do. And we see that happening in the state at both the middle school and the high school level. So that's the last thing I want to talk about. So first of all, I want to talk about bullying and cyberbullying. Now, if you are my age or better, and every year there's fewer of you, so God bless you. If you are my age or better, you remember in the old days that bullying was something like the popular kid did to the unpopular kid, right? Or the jockey guy did to the nerdy guy. But since the advent of technology has become so much more prevalent, more and more, we are not seeing that obvious, physical difference between the bully and the victim. What we see now is more of an up-down relationship in terms of the social power that the kids have. And lots of times, parents, you absolutely have no idea what the relative social power of the kiddos is. But I do want you to know that bullying is something other than anything that makes my kid mad or sad, right? It has to be repeated. It has to be intentional, and it has to be between people of unequal social power. Now, if we see students engaging in bullying on campus or on a school laptop, that can be the basis for the school to take disciplinary action under the Nebraska Student Discipline Act. That's the statute that I have up right here. In your student handbook and in your board policy, the school district tells you that under Nebraska law, we define bullying as an ongoing, I gotta see if my pointer works. Not so sure. As an ongoing pattern of physical, verbal, or electronic abuse. I need some kid that's willing to be bullied. Put up your hand. You don't have to come down. I just want to pick on you. What's your name, hon?
Liberty.
Liberty?
Liberty.
Liberty. All right, Liberty. Awesome. I am going to bully Liberty. Every day when I see Liberty at school, I'm going to shove her into a locker. Ready, Liberty?
Yes.
That was awesome. Let's do one more. Ugh. Can I face a consequence at school for shoving Liberty into the locker?
I mean, depends on who sees.
Depends on who sees. If a teacher sees it, can I get in trouble?
Yeah.
Yes, no doubt that if I get caught repeatedly shoving Liberty into a locker, if I do it once, is it bullying?
No.
No, it has to be an ongoing pattern, so I have to have a pattern. So the second time I shove Liberty, can I get in trouble for bullying? Yes. Now, let's say instead of shoving Liberty, every day when I see her, I say mean things to her. Hey, Liberty, you're such a drama queen, you can't even get shoved without making a scene. Burn, right? Liberty, are those fingernails or cat claws? Ooh, right? If I say mean things to Liberty every day at school, kiddos, can I get in trouble at school?
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. That is another form of bullying, right? Now, let's say instead of shoving Liberty or saying mean things to Liberty, every morning I get up and I whip out my cell phone and I open up Snapchat. And I say, ain't got nothing to do other than talk about how dumb Liberty is. And then I put a bunch of like fire emojis like I burned her, right? And then I post that to my Snapchat story. And then I text Liberty and say, Liberty, check out my story, LOL, right? And then I find a picture of somebody getting shoved and I put that on Instagram and say, wish this was me and Liberty, hashtag loser. If I do those things, am I bullying Liberty?
Yes.
Can I get in trouble at school for that? How many of you say, yes, I can, or yes, my kid can? How many of you say, nope, that's off campus, it doesn't count? And the rest of you are just too shy? I don't think North Bendians are usually shy. Yes? No? Stop asking me questions, just tell the answer. Okay. So, under the Nebraska statute, we are permitted to impose consequences on students of an up to 5-day kick, even if it does not happen on school grounds in a school vehicle or at a school activity. So if I am just texting Liberty every day and just being mean to her, and if it makes Liberty sad, then the school district can impose short-term disciplinary consequences on me. Now, here's why this is such a big deal to me at a laptop rollout. When you have laptops and Chromebooks, that becomes a game changer. Because under the Nebraska Student Discipline Act, we have to report any activity prohibited by Nebraska law. We have to report that activity to law enforcement. If that activity occurs on school grounds, in a school vehicle, or at a school activity. If I am using my Chromebook to send Liberty a text message in which I say, I want to beat your face in, has my misconduct occurred on school grounds, in a school vehicle, or at a school activity? The answer is yes, right? If you do anything with your laptop or your Chromebook, if I communicate with Liberty in any way, if I use my Chromebook to access Twitter, if I use my Chromebook to access any other kind of social media platform, everything I say to Liberty, it's just as if I'm standing in the middle of this gymnasium floor and saying the very same thing. Because what you have now is a school-owned device, right? So any activity forbidden by Nebraska law on school grounds means on a school computer. Consequences if you use a school computer or engage in this kind of misconduct at school, Obviously, you can use lose district technology. Easiest thing for me to do as a school district attorney is to take away your extracurricular privileges, right? You have no particular right to play football or volleyball, even though you've lifted all summer. And so that's probably the first consequence that we go to. We can also suspend kids for more than 5 days. We can suspend kids for up to 19 days if they engage in activity that we deem to be cyberbullying. And we can expel. Now, expulsion in Nebraska used to be that you got kicked out of school and you never came back, and glory, glory, everybody was glad because the bully was gone, right? Parents, it's kind of frustrating for parents now. If your child is being targeted, you need to talk to the school ASAP. But I want you to know that under Nebraska law, we now can only expel students for a maximum of 1 semester for bullying. So it's really important that we engage in like a restorative justice and interactive process with the families, because it's not like we can disappear that kid and make him never come back, right? And when parents, I have parents sometimes say, well, I talked to the school and nothing happened, and what the parent is really saying is, I wanted the bully to get disappeared, and just so you know, we just don't, the unicameral has taken that power away from us. So what we really need to do is to work on these relationships. Make sense? Awesome. This is a fantastic case. This happened at the tail end of the 16-17 school year, involving 8th grade students using a social media site called Ask.fm. Has anybody heard of Ask.fm?
No.
It's old. Liberty, you used it when you were like 10, right?
I used it probably when I was like 12, and it is really old. Like,
Yeah. I was shocked that during the 2016-17 school year, there were actually middle school kids in Nebraska using it. Adults, if you don't know what Ask.fm is, it's sort of like you ask a question anonymously. I make air quotes because nothing online is really anonymous. So you ask a question and then people can just sort of comment on it. It's sort of like Instagram without pictures-ish. I don't exactly know how to describe it. So anyway, students in Grand Island at Barr Middle School were posting things on Ask.fm. A student says, tomorrow gonna be hellafire, and she has a little fire emoji, be there, and in parentheses she puts school. Now, underneath this comment, not the same student, a different student says, don't show up to school tomorrow, and he posts the gun emoji. Students in the, parents, I'm going to ask you the same question, so hold your water. Students in the auditorium, how many of you think that that sounds like this kid is threatening to do something hurtful or scary at school tomorrow? Okay, hands down. Parents, how many of you think it sounds like this kid is threatening to do something hurtful or scary tomorrow? Kiddos, do you see how many more parent hands went up than kid hands? Kids, you all know that friend of yours that has the mom that freaks out over every little thing? Yeah. You know what I'm talking about, right? Assume that everybody in this room is one of those moms. Parents are very concerned about school safety. Parents do not think anything like this is funny, right? Parents assume that the worst is going to happen. And over again, I see kids think this is a joke, and parents think it is a serious threat. And that lack of consistency between how people perceive it creates all kinds of problems. So, in Barr Middle School in Grand Island, kids start telling their parents about this post on Ask.fm. Now, Ask.fm is anonymous. The parents call the cops. It takes law enforcement like 30 minutes to figure out who's posted this stuff, right? Because nothing online is really anonymous. The cops show up at school the next day and they say to the school, we want to interview these 2 students. The girl who made the hellafire comment gets pulled into the interview room, and the police say, what did you mean by saying it's going to be hellafire? Now kids, it's your turn to be quiet. Parents, how many of you think hellafire is some sort of threat? Anybody? Okay kids, now you turn and tell the adult closest to you what hellafire really means. Adults, did the kid next to you say some version of totally awesome, cool, lit, right? Kids, do you see how dumb your parents are? Here's why that matters. It matters a lot. Because this girl told the police, oh no, I didn't mean anything threatening. I said hellfire meant awesome. And the cops said, well, that's not how we took it. That looks like you're going to light the school on fire. And the girl's like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But who's going to win that battle, kids?
The cops.
The cops, that's right. So anytime you're posting something, I want you thinking, would my grandpa think this is funny? Grandpa doesn't get Snapchat, right? He thinks the whole thing is stupid. So if you're always asking that, you're going to avoid these kind of miscommunications. Now, so the first important lesson from this case is, anytime you're posting something, kids, make sure you're looking at it in terms of that freaky outy mom that could panic, and don't post anything that could scare her, right? Now, here's the second important lesson from this case. The police said to this girl, okay, let's assume that it's true that you were just saying tomorrow's going to be awesome at school. When this kid put the gun emoji up, why didn't you say something? And she said, I don't know. That was kind of funny, right? And the police in this case said, no, if you don't do something after if you say something online and you mean it one way, and somebody else takes it in a different direction, it's your responsibility to say, oh no, that's not what I meant, right? Now, this girl was not criminally charged by the police. Instead, the school kicked her out of school for 15 days. How does your algebra grade look after 3 weeks out of school? Not awesome, right? Her mom and dad were super ticked off about this, and mom and dad challenged this discipline that the Grand Island school system gave their child, and they appealed it all the way up to the Nebraska Supreme Court. And the argument was, hey, the school can't punish my kid for what she did at home using a cell phone that I purchased her, right? There's no connection to school. And the Nebraska Supreme Court said there was a sufficient nexus, there's a sufficient connection between school and home in this instance that it was legitimate for the school district to punish her. The Nebraska Supreme Court declined the appeal. There is a fabulous article, if anybody wants to read it, come up to me afterwards and I'll give you the citation. There is a law professor at the University of Central Florida who has compiled a law review article, and all the article is cases where kids have been criminally charged based on emojis. And there's like 17 cases in the last 2 years. So understanding that adults and kids don't always mean the same thing on emojis is really important. Oh, this case. This is just fantastic. Oh, so this is a Facebook page. So that tells you kids that it's really adults, not kids, right? Because nobody under 30 is on Facebook, right? Yeah. Once your grandma got a Facebook page, you were out of here. So somebody had put on their Facebook page, why do you need a gun? And so here, you probably can't read it because it's small. You need these for muggers, rapists, and carjackers. This one is for burglars and home invasions. This is for putting food on the table. This one is for self-defense against enemies, foreign and domestic, for preservation of freedom and liberty, and to prevent government atrocities. Ross says, which one do I need to shoot up at kindergarten? Kids, remember how I said there was that freaked out mom everywhere? She's also somebody's wife, right? She's also a teacher. So this is a case where someone calls the police based on this comment saying, I think Mr. Ross may be a threat to school safety. John Law, you better go check it out. The police arrested him and charged him with making terroristic threats. He argued that nobody would really understand him to be threatening to shoot up a school. He was merely making a political comment about the gun control debate that is raging across this country. He also said that he has a First Amendment right to free speech, which includes making statements like this. The lawsuit that he filed claimed, number one, that it was an illegal search of his Facebook page for the cops to go read what he had written on Facebook. Can the cops read anything you write on Facebook if it's a public comment? Yes. Can the school look at anything you put on your Snapchat story, even if you're not Snapchat friends with the teacher? Yes. Can the school look at what you put on your Twitter? Yeah. On Instagram? Yeah. Doesn't matter what app you're using? Yes. Okay, remember that. So the first thing is the police and the school can look at the stuff that you post publicly. His second argument was he had a First Amendment right to free speech, and the court in this case said, you do have a First Amendment right to free speech, but that right does not include making threats to elementary school children. This guy, his motion to dismiss was denied. He ended up settling for some amount of probation. Okay, but so that conflict between the First Amendment and the safety of schools happens with both kids and adults. And for the most part, the courts are drawing the line in favor of protecting kids, which makes sense to me. This is exactly the analogy the court uses. It's like yelling fire in a crowded theater. That's exactly right. Oh, I like this cartoon. Can you see that it says principal? And then it says, please wait to be yelled at. Okay, those are examples of school-based consequences that we've imposed and we've seen imposed in the state. But that's not the only kind of consequence we see people facing for bullying and cyberbullying. And the second thing I want to talk about is civil liability. Now, in a civil lawsuit, nobody's going to jail. These are lawsuits all about money. Mom and Dad, if you own your own home, your standard HO3 will usually pay to defend a lawsuit like this. The same homeowner's insurance policy that you're making a photocopy of if you don't want to pay the insurance also will pay for a defense for the lawyers if you get sued if your kid is a cyberbully. The problem is the insurance policy is a defense-only claim, which means the insurance policy pays for the lawyer, but it doesn't pay for any money that you lose. Okay? So we have seen cases where parents have had to take out a second mortgage on their house to pay the judgment. There are cases in other states where there's been foreclosure on homes after a student has posted something inappropriate. Best example of this is one of my favorite cases. Fuller versus Swidler is an 8th grade boy who does not like his math teacher. So he makes a website. And the website is called Teacher Sucks. He used an X, right? He takes a picture of his math teacher, puts it on the Teacher Sucks website, compares her to Hitler. He has a little video where a knife comes across her head and cuts off her head and red stuff oozes out, right? So he's got a video of her being decapitated. And then he writes, hey, if everybody can kick in $10, we can all go together and hire a hitman and get rid of her. Did he go too far?
Yes.
Who funds the website?
School.
Who at the school? Teacher. Teacher finds the website. Teacher freaks out. Teacher tells the principal. Principal expels the kid for the rest of the school year. Can the school do that? Yeah. Can we expel a kid for making a website that is threatening a teacher? Yes? You with me? Okay. That's not what's interesting about this case. What's interesting about this case is what happened next. After the kid was expelled, the teacher sued the kid and his family for intentional infliction of emotional distress. Teacher said, I was so upset, especially about this decapitation video that really freaked me out. I had to go see a counselor. I had to take some time off work. I'm entitled to some money for that. What do you think? Everybody think, 1, do you think she won? And 2, how much do you think she won? And then I'm going to show you $500,000. Now, the family's homeowner's insurance paid for everything to this point. They paid for the lawyer in the lawsuit. They paid the $500,000 judgment. The kid in this case, while he was expelled, used his time very productively, took a picture of the principal, or first principal, post the principal's picture on the Teacher Sucks website. I know, yeah. Has a bullet coming towards the principal's head. Bullet hits the principal's head, red stuff pushes out. Now, do principals get hurt feelings easily, generally? No, right? So the principal saw this video and the principal was like, whatever, kid. Until the principal saw this $500,000 judgment, right? And the principal said, oh my goodness, I'm distressed. Principal files a lawsuit against the kid. Now, I told you the insurance company had paid for everything up to this point. The insurance company entered into a settlement agreement with the principal, dropped the family's insurance coverage. Family had to sell their house to pay the principal's $300,000 settlement. So, if you bully or cyberbully, you can get in trouble at school. Your mom and dad can get sued and have to pay a ton of money. The third thing that I see happening to kids who make bad decisions online is they get in trouble with the law. They get in trouble criminally. The first way I see kids getting in trouble criminally is under the terroristic threat statute. This is the law that says no one can threaten to commit a crime of violence with the intent to terrorize another in reckless disregard of causing such terror, or, there's supposed to be a third one, or hoping to cause the evacuation of a public building. Okay? Now, I want to show you how this works in real life. I need, who thinks they're going to be the starting center on the football team this fall? Is he here? Oh, stink pie. I need the biggest guy that's not playing football. Yeah, come here. Are you Zach?
No.
Is that what I hear? What's your name?
Russell.
Come here, Russell. You're perfect. Come stand by me. Now, everybody look at Russell. Look at me. Now, if Russell and I fight, ready? Where's Russell's mom? You've raised him well. Look how uncomfortable he is. If Russell and I fight, and Russell's not playing around, he's really mad. If Russell and I fight, who's going to win? Russell. He's going to kill me, right? Yeah. Are you scared of me? Physically scared of me? No. All right, not yet. So, let's say that tonight on the way home, I send Russell a text. Dude, tomorrow in school, I'm going to kick your butt. Text. If you get that text from me, are you scared? If you know it's me. Probably not. Look how nice he's trying to be. You're an old lady. No, but have I committed a terroristic threat at this point in time?
Yes.
Have I threatened to commit a crime of violence? Yes, butt kicking is a crime of violence. Did I intend to cause terror in Russell's heart?
Yes.
That's going to be hard to prove. I'm going to say no. Did I actually cause terror? Are you terrified? No. So probably at this point I have not committed a terroristic threat, right? But when Russell goes home, he throws his phone on the table, and Mom thinks she's going to be nice to Russell, so she takes his phone and plugs it in because she knows it's running out of power. And when she connects Russell's phone to power, my text message lights up, right? And Mom says, "Oh, Russie. Who's being mean to my little Russ buzz?" And Mom calls the cops, right? Now notice, I still did not intend to terrify Russell. I still have not actually terrified Russell, but I have acted in reckless disregard that I could scare Russell's mom. I can be charged with making a terroristic threat. Okay? All right, thank you, Russell. Woohoo! I actually, these are fun, and Russell's a great sport. I am serious as a heart attack. I probably had a dozen of these in my office last year. I can't tell you how many. I lost track of how many children I expelled for making terroristic threats. Doesn't that frighten you a little bit, Mom and Dad? Right? These are just screenshots of things that I've heard from law enforcement. I love this tweet from the Sarpy County Sheriff. We don't care if you're joking. Parents, talk with your children about social media comments, hashtag no joke, hashtag we will take it seriously. The kid that made this comment was both arrested and expelled from school. In Plattsmouth, they ended up having to cancel a day of school because there were social media threats. This one, a student calls from the high school, makes a prank call to 911 because she's frustrated at some kind of math class. At the same time the student makes this call, law enforcement was responding to a situation involving a child custody dispute in a middle school. So having the custody dispute and then this prank call about a shooting, all the wires got crossed. I don't know if any of you saw it on the news, it turned into this enormous thing. There's video footage on the news of high school kids ducking and running out of the building because they thought there was an active shooter. That's not the kind of stuff, kids, that when you go home, your mom says, "Ha ha ha, what a funny joke." No one thinks it's funny. An Elkhorn kid arrested this kid. says that he posts on Snapchat that he's going to make Columbine look like an effing joke. Kiddos never, never, never joke about Columbine. Just like you never, never, never joke about having a bomb in the TSA line, right? The SWAT team arrived at the Neely Oakdale School in their shiny new black SUV wearing their black like SWAT team uniforms, right? And they go busted into the school with their guns out, like hoop ha, hoop ha, hoop ha, right? Handcuff that kid, drag him out. He's charged with making terroristic threats. Ultimately, I think he entered into pretrial diversion, but he originally was charged as an adult. I cannot tell you enough, this is not funny. And the police don't think it's funny, we don't think it's funny, we take it extremely seriously. Please, parents, reinforce this with your kids. I do not like expelling good kids for doing stupid stuff like this. Brand new on the books as of this legislative session, so no one has been charged under the statute yet, but I'm a little bit worried that some kids are going to get caught up in this. Nebraska Statute 281310 says, if you call or send an electronic communication with the intent to intimidate, threaten, or harass, if you use obscene language, or if you threaten to inflict physical or mental injury, then you have committed intimidation by telephone. Kids, don't raise your hands. All those text messages you sent your ex when you found out that he was going out with somebody else, how many of those technically would have fallen under this statute? If you call someone an effing B, right? I believe you probably now committed intimidation by telephone. Please be cautious. Again, county attorneys and law enforcement are getting sick of getting calls about this stuff, and so they're getting more aggressive in how they charge it. Classroom misdemeanor. Gotta check my time. Okay, so those are the two ways I see kids getting in trouble criminally for threatening people. The third way I see kids getting in trouble criminally is for sexting. And if you can't read this cartoon, it's the dad says, oh great, now it's sexting, drugs, and rock and roll. Now, I will tell you, I am married to my high school sweetheart.
Aww.
So, I have done a lot of work with sexting, and the first talk I did about sexting, my daughter was 13 years old. And so a lot of times when I put these slides together, I've got all my cases, I'm at the kitchen table and I've got all these sexting cases spread out. And my husband walks by and he says, what are you working on? And I said, I'm working on a presentation for Administrators Days on sexting. And he says, what's that? That tells you how long ago it was, right? So I tell him and he goes, oh, you don't think Anna would do something like that, do you? I'm like, well, I hope not. I've talked to her about it, but we don't know, and it had never occurred to him that kids would do this. Guys, I dated him in high school. He would have thought of this. Parents, we forget what it's really like to be 16, 17, 18 years old. And I think we disrespect our kids by forgetting that. Now, hear me. I am not one of the people that says we should just let everybody sex and do whatever they want because no harm, no foul, we're a bunch of uptight people. And I'm going to show you why I don't think it's okay here in a minute. But parents, I don't think it's really important that you remember how old 16-year-old feels when you're in it. Do you know what I'm saying? And because I think we forget and then we do our kids a disservice. So, in Nebraska, if you are under the age of 19 years old, let me say that one more time. If you are under the age of how old?
19.
The age majority in the state of Nebraska is 19, not 18. My kid is 18. He has a thing for knives, and he just bought a knife on a trip that we were on. And he said to me, Mom, I am carrying this knife to every college class I go to because I couldn't take it in high school. Because I told him, if you have a knife in school, I'm not helping you. You're screwed. He says, because in Missouri, I'm 18 and I'm no longer chattel. I'm like, okay, dude, but in Nebraska, you're 18 and you are still chattel, right? 18 is the age of majority. It makes sending obscene or pornographic images of any minor child, 18 years of age or younger, a class 4 felony if you are under the age of 19. Here's what that means. If your daughter takes a selfie in the bathroom mirror that is inappropriate, and she saves it to the photo roll of her camera, she has committed a Class 4 felony. If your son receives a Snapchat from his girlfriend, and in that Snapchat she is not wearing enough clothes, you know, to pass the grandma rule, your son is actively committing a Class 4 felony. And these cases do get charged. The other thing we see is the boyfriend who's gone off to college and a girlfriend who's a senior. If you are 19 years of age or older and you possess child pornography, that is a Class 3 A felony, 1 level up. Both of these are punishable by up to 5 years in prison. Now, I have not seen a kiddo go to prison for this. I have seen kids have to pay the fine, especially if the image has been distributed beyond, you know, what the original intent was. And it is also punishable by up to a mandatory lifetime sex offender registration. This is a survey that was done by Drexel University in 2004, and they asked kids in middle school and high school, how common is your sexting behavior? How many of you have ever, now I'm not asking you, don't raise your hands, please, I'm begging you. How many of you have ever sent or received an inappropriate picture or text message? Fully 50% of middle school and high school people said, yes, I have either sent or received an inappropriate text or image. Look at the number for 12 to 14-year-olds. 20% of 12 to 14-year-olds have already sent or received an inappropriate picture or text. Youngest cases we've had in our office, we've had 2 involved 10-year-olds. Parents, the time to talk to your kids about inappropriate image sending and receiving is in late elementary school, because that's where we start to see kids getting passed. I don't know if you guys saw this in the news. In Fairbury, which is one of our clients, but I'm not telling you any secrets because it was on the news. Some boys ended up with inappropriate pictures of one of the girls they go to school with. Okay, how they got them is kind of a fight, it doesn't matter. Everybody agrees that these boys had this inappropriate picture of a girl on their phone. And then they shared it with other people. And the other people shared it with other people. And the other people, and on it goes. The school called us and said, we're hearing rumors about this image going around. What are we supposed to do? Educators in the room. Is the depiction of a child in a pornographic image child abuse? Yeah, it is. It is, right? Every teacher in the room should know that. Anybody who's a medical professional should know that. Parents, if you are not a teacher or a doctor or a lawyer or a cop, you also should know that, because everybody in the state of Nebraska is considered a mandatory reporter for child abuse. So if you know of an inappropriate picture, that is a mandatory report to law enforcement, especially if you're a teacher, because if you don't report it, not only can you be prosecuted criminally, you can lose your teaching license. Parents, do you see how this has implications for how the school deals with this if they find out about it? When they call me, the first thing I say is, you got to contact law enforcement, because this is potential abuse or neglect. So in Fairbury, they called law enforcement. Ultimately, the State Patrol's Special Task Force got involved, showed up, confiscated 50 kids' cell phones, went through forensic analysis. In the end, multiple students in Fairbury were charged with felony possession of child pornography. Multiple other kids were charged with distribution, and other kids were charged with misdemeanor possession. And it started with one image that somehow got sent from phone to phone. That was last year. This case in Lincoln was 2 years ago. These are 2 18-year-olds that have video of inappropriate stuff happening with a 17-year-old girl. And this video started out on Snapchat. Now, why would they have started it out on Snapchat? What would make Snapchat that appealing technology to use to sext with? It disappears. Does it really? No. Over and over and over again, we have situations where Snapchat videos don't really disappear. Either people were screencasting them, or they have another phone recording, as the video is played. You guys know all the ways that you can screenshot a Snapchat without having the notification go. So this video got shared on Snapchat and ultimately on other social media sources. These two 18-year-olds were tried as adults, even though they were minors, because the police were so mad that they'd done this to this kid. They said, no, we're going to treat you as an adult. The judge sentenced these two kids to 60 days in prison. They are not entitled to have any social media. She put them on the sex offender registry, and they have to come back and ask her to take them off. And the kids' lawyer said, this is a really harsh sentence for what was basically one stupid decision. And the judge said, you two have imposed a lifetime sentence on this 17-year-old. She'll never get those images back. And so it's only appropriate that you be on the sex offender registry for life, and then you can come back and ask me, Mother, may I, to get off if you want to try. So again, this is more than just like kids being kids. It's a criminally significant matter. Now, when I do sessions for kiddos, sometimes I have a student ask, okay, Karen, I understand that I should not be sending inappropriate images, but what about the guy that keeps asking me? Shouldn't something happen to him, right? And for a long time, my answer was, I wish that there was something we could do about that kiddo, but I don't think that's a crime. But I was wrong, because here's what's happening now. In the last about 18 months, county attorneys have been charging kids who ask other kids for images. They've been charging that kiddo with child abuse. Here's how it works. The child abuse statute says a person commits child abuse if he or she knowingly, intentionally causes or permits a minor child to be placed in a situation that endangers his or her mental health, placed in a situation to be sexually exploited by, allowing or encouraging the minor to engage in obscene or pornographic photography. Do you see how they get there? Now, what's the minimum age in the statute that you have to be before you can be charged? Is it more than 10? Is it more than 20? Do you see the point I'm making? There is no minimum age, right? All the statute says is it has to be a person. So a 10-year-old who asks another 10-year-old to take an inappropriate picture technically has committed child abuse. Now, we don't see county attorneys charging 10-year-olds because, that's just not how our criminal justice system rolls. But what I'm seeing now is county attorneys sick to death of the 16-year-old asking and like basically badgering kids into sending pictures. And so I'm seeing county attorneys charging 16 and 17-year-olds with child abuse under the statute. So, does it hurt to ask? Yes, indeed, it actually does. Yeah, it's a problem. This is kind of interesting. I'm involved in an organization called the National Council of School Attorneys, and we've been actually talking about the fact that these sexting statutes were not originally meant to get kids in trouble. They were originally meant to catch predators who were targeting kids, but they've been used a lot to prosecute teenagers. And so here's the national data. Nationally, about 62% of county attorneys have charged a minor in a sexting offense. Look at the rate in Nebraska. We are charging kids and adults at basically the same rate for these sexting offenses. I think it's because we don't have a lot of other tools. So if you think that we are not charging these cases in the state, you are wrong. The vast majority of these cases get resolved by pretrial diversion or settlement, so you don't necessarily see it in the paper, but 100% of these cases do get criminally charged. What time is it? This is just to show you how fast this can get out of control. This is a case out of Canyon City, Colorado. It basically involved the football team and some other guys. They were trading nude photographs almost like they were baseball cards. They were having a contest to see who could get the most nudes and the widest variety of angles, if you know what I'm saying. In the end, a teacher discovered kids acting inappropriately. She's like, what's going on with these phones? She confiscates the phone, sees an inappropriate picture, immediately contacts law enforcement. The police start investigating. They discover more than 400 photographs of more than 100 different kids. They charged, the kids were, this is the contest thing that I told you. This was if they won, they were going to be the pimp of the pictures. They charged so many football players with felonies that the school district had to forfeit their last football game of the season because they did not have enough varsity players to field the team. In the end, over the summer, the county attorney in this case settled for pretrial diversion for the football players. And the terms of the pretrial diversion are, each one of these kids is on probation until they're 18, not permitted to own a cell phone until they are 21, and as a condition of the settlement agreement, the county attorney made the school agree that they would never let these kids participate in any extracurricular activities for the remainder of their high school career. Which I don't know if I agree with, but that's what this county attorney wanted. Okay, that brings us to internet safety, which is about the last 14 minutes of our time together. This cartoon says, yes, you've done an excellent job of keeping our computers safe, but sooner or later you're going to have to plug it in. Okay, so one of the reasons I think it's so important that we really talk about how unsafe it is to send inappropriate pictures, even if it's a boyfriend-girlfriend situation, is because of cases like this Fall City case. If we normalize parents, if we normalize the idea that any part of a romantic relationship includes exchanging nudes, then we have made that part of relationships that may be way less healthy than a standard boyfriend-girlfriend going to the same high school together. This Fall City case actually just makes me kind of crazy because Fall City is one of the schools that has me in pretty routinely. I think I've been in front of this girl's student assembly, I think 3 times while this situation was going on. This case begins when she's 12 years old. She has an internet boyfriend, a Skype boyfriend. Right? And parents, if you don't know, that's a thing among some middle school people, especially middle school girls. Now, mom knows about the Skype boyfriend, and dads, this is kind of funny for you, I think. I think mom and dad think that the Skype version of the boyfriend is actually a really good idea, right? Way less potential problems, way less chance of you having to shoot him in the head if he does something wrong, right? You didn't hear that. So, you know. So mom and dad know that her first boyfriend is an internet boyfriend, but they're not very worried about it. She's not hiding it. They've actually watched her talk to this kid on FaceTime and Skype and Google Hangouts. They can see that he truly is a 14-year-old boy, what he claims to be. And so mom and dad feel pretty good about this, that this is not going to be inappropriate. Now, boyfriend and girlfriend talk all the time. She tells her friends all about him. Boy eventually says to the girl, you know, since we're boyfriend-girlfriend, you know what boyfriends and girlfriends do? They exchange inappropriate pictures. And the girl really likes him. And she's told all of her friends about him. She doesn't really want to, but eventually, even though she knows her mom would kill her, she takes some inappropriate pictures and sends them to the boy. You know what happened next? Nothing. No, nothing. Mom didn't see it. The boy wasn't weird. They kept talking and, hanging out online. Everything was awesome. Phew, bullet, zip past her. Several weeks later, the boy says to her, hey, it kind of stinks that we'll never meet. This boy lived in Utah. This girl was in Fall City. It kind of stinks that we're never going to meet because it would be awesome to meet each other in real life. But a funny thing, my uncle travels for work. And he's going to be in Fall City next week. Do you want to meet my uncle? And girl's like, that sounds awkward. He's like, no, it's not awkward. He's really cool. He'll just be passing by. He'll meet you anywhere you want. Nothing weird. It's all cool. Now, I don't know if any of you have been to the Fall City Middle School. You can see the quick shop where they met from the middle school, like a block and a half away. And when school is out, all the middle school kids kind of, you know how middle schoolers run in packs, right? They all go down to the quick shop after school. So she says she will meet Uncle after school, and she takes 2 of her friends with her to go to the quick shop to meet him. So they walk into the quick shop, and the uncle's sitting there, he sent a picture, so she knows who to look for. Uncle's sitting there in one of those, booths like you have at the Casey's here. And the friends are walking around the store, and the girl sits down, and the uncle's very nice, and they talk. And so the girl's like, okay, well, this has been great, but, I've got to go. See you later. And the uncle takes out his phone. And on the screen of the phone are the pictures the girl has sent to the boyfriend. And the uncle says, you come with me. Don't you raise a stink with your friends, because if you do, I'm showing you these pictures. So she goes with him. He takes her to a hotel, and he does stuff with her that she doesn't want to do. Uncle came back to Fall City 2 more times. Now, one of the things that makes me crazy about this case is this girl had my cell phone number. At the end of this session, I'm going to give all of you my cell phone number. Kids, if someone is hurting you, if someone is making you do stuff you don't want to do, I'm not your mom, I'm not your teacher, but if you don't have anybody else to talk to, you text me. I will find a way for someone to help you. It gnaws at me that this girl could have texted me and I could have tried to help her at least the times that the uncle came back to town. Now, do you know how the uncle got caught? Did the girl tell? No. She didn't want anybody to know. Her mom was a teacher. She was going to be in so much trouble, so she felt trapped. She didn't think there was anything she could do. The way we found out about this is there was a girl in South Carolina who had an internet boyfriend who was about 14 years old. The boy kept asking the girl for pictures, and she told her parents. Pictures in South Carolina, or police in South Carolina, mom and dad called the police. Police in South Carolina looked at the girl's computer, figure out that Josh really is in Utah, go and raid Josh's computer, and they discover that Josh is not this guy's nephew. This guy has pictures of Josh, and he's making Josh do this to find girls all over the country that the uncle is doing this to. Now, kids, I know you're not stupid. And I know you are way smarter than your parents think you are. But there are so many people out there that are way more committed to tricking you than you are committed to figuring out what they're doing. It is so unsafe to share pictures and information about yourself with someone that you don't know in real life. So unsafe. Okay, so that's Fall City. Where did I put my coat? Oh, real quick. Kids, I know you know this, but I gotta tell you, parents. So Snapchat is like the queen mother of all social media apps, moms and dads. If you don't have Snapchat, sorry kids. If you don't have Snapchat, mom and dad, I think you should get it just to kind of understand how it works. And one of the features in Snapchat that I'm kind of worried about is the Snapchat map feature. So when you open up Snapchat, when you're on the camera, if you squeeze a pinch on the screen, it pulls up this map. This is a screenshot. This is before the last update, kids. That's why my Bitmoji looks weird. But it shows a map of me and all the people that I'm friends with on Snapchat. These are all kids that I'm friends with on Snapchat because I've spoken at their high school or middle school. I'm kind of careful. I never want to zoom down too close on somebody else's kid. This is my daughter. At her apartment on 4th Street, I've cropped it out so you can't see the cross street, otherwise you would know exactly what address my daughter lives at. See how it knows she's sleeping? Snapchat knows when you haven't accessed your phone after so many hours, it puts your Bitmoji to sleep so that people know you're sleeping. Here's more of my friends sleeping. Here I am driving to Waverly, and it shows you where I am, and if this was live and I touched the car, it would tell you how many miles an hour I'm going. Here's somebody else sleeping. Here's kids that I'm friends with listening to music, because Snapchat knows when you have your earpods in. See these little blue circles here? If you click on those are like hot zones, and it will show you videos and other things that have been posted in this geographic location, even if I'm not friends with these people. So if I clicked on this, it could show your kid hanging out, eating ice cream. I've seen moms making dinner. I've seen people fighting with their friends. You've seen people at concerts. You just click on those little circles and it starts to scroll a video through it. Do you see, in light of the predator information, why I'm really worried about the Snapchat feature? The good news is, this is my daughter that shows you that she was actually at class on a Friday morning. So parents, if this weirds you out, you're going to have your kids show you their Snapchat, and you're going to have to go into their settings. And kiddos, you know this, you know how to turn ghost mode on and off. So you want to show your folks how to turn on ghost mode. But parents, you click this little dial here to turn on ghost mode. One thing, parents, Snapchat has now made it so that you can say, all of my friends can see me on my Snap map, or only select friends. So, if you're a middle school boy and your mom came to this session and she freaked out about the snap maps, and so now she's looking at her Snapchat all the time to see if she can see you on her map, I, as the boy, can make it so that everybody can see where I am except mom. So the only way to know for sure if your kid has ghosted is to rip the phone out of your kid's sweaty little hands, right? And look on their device to see if they've turned on ghost mode. And then Snapchat now. Snapchat doesn't like it when you ghost because they like to collect this information. So it then asks you, do you want to do it for 3 hours, 24 hours, or until it's turned off? So moms and dads, this means it's kind of like the old Russians and Americans fighting about nuclear warheads. You're just going to have to check every so often. Because it's very easy for kiddos to change it. In fact, my kids will turn ghost mode on when they don't want their friends to know they've been on Snapchat because they don't want to, like, you kids know, like, to have all the drama that you didn't see my story. But once your kid is ghosted, it will put a little ghost over the kid's face. One thing I might add, what time is it? What time is it? Oh, shoot. Okay, well, real quick. One thing I might add, there was a student from Midland University last year who met a guy on Tinder. She did not come home after she went and had a date with him, and her roommates went to the Director of Student Services and said, something's weird because she did not come home. Director of Student Services called the cops. The police tracked this girl using her Snap Map to a hotel in Iowa where the guy had kidnapped her and was fixing to sell this girl into the sex trade. So turning ghost mode on automatically, parents, is not an automatic safety feature. I mean, there may be benefits to have. What I'm saying is there's pluses and minuses, and you should have a conversation with your kiddo about how you're going to handle ghosting. Okay, so what do I want you to do now? Parents, I think you should talk to your kids about this stuff. I also think every adult should make the effort to get online with at least either Snapchat or Instagram so you can just kind of understand the digital lives that our kids are living. Kiddos, if you are struggling, if someone is hurting you or scaring you or bothering you, you tell any teacher in this room, they will move heaven and earth to help you. And if they can't help you, you talk to me. And of course, you always start by sharing this information with your parents. Because even if they're the lamest people on earth, which of course they are because they're your parents, they still love you more than anyone else and they're going to do their level best to help you out. Please don't struggle in silence. Everybody, always remember, don't even take a picture with your phone that you wouldn't show your grandma. If everyone followed the grandma rule, I would have way fewer interesting stories to tell. Assume everything that you post will be read by everyone, and I think there's just some other good basic security things. If things are bad, parents, I think you should talk to one another in addition to looping into school. Number one complaint I get from schools is that parents want to talk to the school about stuff, and then they say, oh, but don't tell anybody I complained, keep my name out of it. And then that makes it really hard for us to problem solve. Do know that the police must be contacted if the Nebraska Criminal Code is being violated. Last thing, I don't know if you saw this quote by Scott Frost, but I love what he is saying about social media. He says, I'll tell you this right now, if there's anything negative about women, if there's anything racial about sexuality, if there's anything about guns or anything like that, we're just not going to recruit you. Period. Piece of advice for you. What you put on social media, that's your resume to the world. I'm not saying don't put anything up. I'm saying put awesome stuff up because that's your resume to the world. That's what you're trying to tell the world you're all about. That's how you're advertising yourself. Be smart. Okay, this is my contact information. 6:59. I will stick around and answer questions. Parents, I view it as part of my responsibility to answer questions if you've got them. If you email me, I'm not your lawyer, I can't represent you, but I will try to answer the best I can. And kiddos, if you need to, if you want to, if things are bad, let me know and I will do everything I can. All right, thanks guys, you've been awesome.
All right, thank you, Karen. All right, parents, again, we're not doing this to scare you. We hope that we provided you some education. And again, like Karen said, go home and talk to your kiddos. Talk to them about how to be safe, especially with the technology that we're giving them. I'm going to put Officer Slacky in on a short notice here. But we this summer Dodge County came to us and talked to us about maybe having a resource officer. And since Karen talked about our law enforcement, we're going to have law enforcement in our building as a school resource officer a few days out of the month. So if Deputy Slacky could come forward and just kind of tell them what your role will be here in school.
Yes, sure thing. All right. As mentioned, I'm Deputy Slacky. Sorry, I'm catching a little bit of a cold, I think. Hopefully nothing too bad. But this year, like was mentioned, we just started the School Resource Officer program here at North Bend, as well as Logan View. So what that means is I will be in school here between the high school and the elementary school, as well as Logan View throughout the entire school year. My main focus excuse me, is to help create an environment that is safe for the students, to really facilitate a learning environment that's going to help them in the long run. And that comes about in a couple different ways, through hopeful education in the classroom, through some mentoring in school. I am just there for the students, whether it's to talk about a bad day, about a good day, or just something that they might have saw or heard of while in school or out of school. I'm there to receive that information, to listen, to talk, and hopefully help that student in the school in the long run. I am also here, as mentioned, for any of the criminal activity that might take place, but I'm hoping that kind of stays down to a minimum, so I can focus on the counseling and the education portion of my position here. So I really look forward to the opportunities that this position kind of lays forth, and I think it'll be a successful year, and that this program will really do a lot for both North Bend and Logan View. So thank you.
All right, so as Karen mentioned, she'll be around if you have questions. Officer Slacky will be around. I will be around for questions. Otherwise, if you haven't picked up your Chromebooks, you may do so. And thank you for attending.